Uh, Good evening, dear students. And today's test was okay. It was few of you have done it. Could submit me on time because it's a time-bound test. It was a MCQ test. So I hope and wish that all of you will be able to do it in our next classes. And I am sure that you all are well versed of using Google Form. If not, please practice. It's very simple, and even one of my videos is there how to work with Google Form. Go through it and see how you could answer your questions in a Google Form. Uploading and all, MCQs, though they are very simple. So answer, and as I told you, the competition has to be within yourself. So your answers are mailed to you, and with the feedback, wherever you have a problem, you can anytime call me, and not call, you have to either give me a message on WhatsApp or mail, so that you'll get your reply, or if required, I may call you and get your doubts clarified on a one-to-one basis. But make sure that you understand everything, because we are all human beings. It's don't think that these are simple, but because your basics are very important to make your subject so that you understand your subject properly well, and think of making it like as your career in future. So now we are going to have chemical equations. Chemical equations, as you know, are very interesting. In periodic table, you have seen how all these elements are arranged by a modern periodic table and Mendeleev's periodic table based upon their properties and characteristics. And 115 elements were and more were found, and then these elements, when they combine with each other, they give rise to new products. And what all are these, and how are these chemical reactions takes place, how do elements combine? Once we complete this chemical equations, and what are balanced chemical equations, once you are well versed with that, we'll be able to see the bonds in chemical bounding. What are ionic, covalent bonds, coordinate covalent bonds, the different type of boundings between these elements. So let us see what is basics of the chemical equations. A short, terms that are used in the chemical equations will be told to you all. So please be thorough into it, so that we can do some exercises using forming these chemical equations. I mean the reactions. And okay, let's see what happens here. So there are, whenever these elements are reacting, or the atoms are reacting with each other. For example, X element is combining with Y elements and giving rise to a new product, X and Y. So whenever the reactions takes place, there are four types of things that happen. There is the physical state, and then the change in the physical state. Then heat is used, and other products is heat changes, gas is evolved, and precipitate is formed. So let us check one by one what happens. So in physical state, what is happening is it's expressing its physical state. As you all know, that you have already learned it in your lower classes, that matter exists in three forms, that is solid, liquid, and gaseous forms. And then we are going to have one more form called aqua solution. Aqua, in a word in Latin, means water. So any solution that is added with the water is called as an aqueous solution. So the state of the reactants and the products as a matter is more informative. Some of the notations about used for expressing the physical states as solid, liquid, S. If you can just look into these statements, whenever under a reaction, you see that it's in the braces like this. Within the brackets, you will see it written as here. As you see, S is written, and I, G, and AQ. So these are whenever this is written, that means it's in a solid state. It's in liquid state, gaseous state, and aqueous. Aqueous, as I told you, is in a is with water, a solution in water. So now let us see what happens if these matter, these are the physical states of the elements. Element can be in any of this state when it is reacting as a reactant, and the products formed will also be only among these states only. Either it will be solid, liquid, gaseous, or aqueous, and certain times. But during these reactions, what happens is energy or the heat is released or absorbed. Okay, and gases are also liberated. So let's see what happens to them when these elements are reacting with each other. So these are the common ones which, once the school reopen, you can see them in the lab. How are these reactions taking place, and how are precipitates formed? You have already done it with most of the time in this school. So now let us see what happens in this reaction. Fe2O3 is ferric oxide or iron oxide. You can even call it an iron oxide or ferrous oxide. This is in the form of a solid state. When it combines with the two molecules of aluminum, which is again in a solid state, and when heat is given, when these are heated, then iron melts down into a liquid form and aluminum trioxide is formed, which is again in a solid form. So this reaction is called as an endothermic reaction. Why is it called as an endothermic reaction? Endo is it is taking heat inside, and exothermic reaction is the one when the heat is liberated. So in this reaction, like if you see, you have already done your respiration and photosynthesis. I just want this question which I wanted you all to answer me is photosynthesis and respiration. Which one is exothermic and which one is endothermic? Exothermic is heat or energy is given out. Okay, and endothermic is energy is utilized in the reaction. Like here you see that we are heating them to give rise to iron and aluminum trioxide, so this becomes an endothermic reaction. So moreover, what we are seeing here is two molecules of iron and three molecules of oxygen. When it is combining with the two molecules of aluminum and it is heated, it gives rise to two molecules of iron and two molecules of aluminum and three molecules of oxygen. So how are we balancing this equation? When we take two molecules of, according to the law of conservation of mass, an atom can neither be destructed it cannot be destructed in any form. Smallest particles. When you are taking two molecules of iron in the reactants, products also should give rise to two molecules of iron. So we see here that ferric oxide, when it is heated, iron, two molecules of iron. Here in reactants also we took two molecules of iron, and in the products also we are getting two molecules of iron, and three molecules of oxygen was taken. Then though it has this oxygen, when heating it from iron, it combined with aluminum, because aluminum and iron item, you see that aluminum has got the high tendency. When we were looking into the periodic table, you will understand that these are the metals which have got the high tendency of releasing and combining with oxygen. So this has combined with the oxygen, giving rise to aluminum trioxide. So aluminum, two molecules and three molecules of oxygen. So we see that in our reactants as well as in the products, we have got equal number of molecules. This shows that it's a balanced equation. Now, what do we see is iron oxide, aluminum, iron is given rise to two molecules of iron and aluminum trioxide. So this were in the gaseous, solid and liquid different states. Now, what is happening here is energy. Huh? I was talking to you about exothermic and endothermic reaction. Don't forget your small activity which I have given me. I wanted you all to message me whether photosynthesis is an exothermic or an endothermic reaction, and respiration, what type of a reaction is respiration. Okay, whether it is exothermic or endothermic. And decomposition, you have seen that in the pit we see that you make a small compost pit into which all the organic substances are put and it is decomposed. And what type of reaction is a decomposition reaction? So this is a homework for you to let me see how many of you understood this concept clearly. In this, what is happening is, in this following reaction, carbon and oxygen, they combine together to give rise to carbon dioxide and energy. And here, two molecules of nitrogen combines with two molecules of oxygen, giving rise to nitric oxide minus energy. So if energy here, what is happening? Whenever this triangle shape is given, that is, it's called a delta. The delta is given, that means heat is utilized in this reaction. And when heat is utilized, that means it's an endothermic reaction. And when heat is released, in this, energy is released. So it's an exothermic reaction. So when energy is released, you call it an exothermic reaction. And when heat is absorbed, you call it an endothermic reaction. So in this reaction, what do we see here is uh, carbon and oxygen. Most of the time in these reactions, when we see that carbon dioxide is released, and when energy is released, you find it when you're doing it in a test tubes, when you're doing two reactions, you'll see in how it is happening. You see that the test tubes become hot, so that means heat is liberated and it's an exothermic reaction. Whereas when you are heating it, you find that the texture, there is no change in the temperature of the test tube. That means it's an endothermic reaction. So nitrogen gas, when it combines with the oxygen gas, when they both are heated together, this delta represents the symbol of heating. Two molecules of nitrous oxide gas minus heat. So this means it's an endothermic reaction, because you have to supply heat to for this reaction to get the end products. So this is an endothermic reaction. So remember, what did you understand by exothermic and endothermic reaction? So, and then the next aspect that you mostly get into it is gas evolved. So, what happens? How are gases evolved during a reaction? So, let us see. It's a common one which is there in our lab also. Many a times, Durga Madam has shown this experiment in the lab. You can, whenever you come to submit your projects, you can go to the lab, do this experiment, and see how hydrogen is liberated. So, zinc plus sulfuric acid, when it is added into the conical flask, you see that, yeah, let me show you this silver. So what is happening in that reaction? Heat is liberated. Okay. So here what is happening, zinc and sulfuric acid, when they are combined together, they give rise to zinc sulfate and hydrogen gas. And you have done hydrogen gas test so many times. If you use a lighted flame here, and if you get a pop sound, then the gas that comes out is hydrogen gas. So zinc granules plus sulfuric acid, zinc granules in the solid state and sulfuric acid in a liquid state. When they both are combined together in a conical flask, we have found that a new compound called zinc sulfate is formed, and hydrogen gas is liberated. Okay, so the gas come out of the glass tube in the copper flask. So shows that in this reaction, whenever you see an arrow, these arrows are shown here. So that means gas is liberated. If it is in a gaseous form, in the form of reaction, then it is written in brackets as G. But when you see a upper arrow, that means the gas is liberated here. So now you have seen what is an exothermic reaction, endothermic reaction, and gaseous release. And then let us see what is a precipitate formed. What do you mean by forming a precipitate? So this is a very common test and a very simple and easy test that you can do in your lab also. Silver nitrate, which is in the aqueous state. So silver nitrate, we are taking this solution in water, and this solution is giving rise to sodium, this aqueous solution, silver nitrate and sodium chloride gives rise to when this arrow is down, that means it's a precipitate, gives rise to sodium chloride in a solid state and sodium nitrate in a aqueous state. So the following expression, if the down arrow you see that it denotes that the formation of a precipitate has took place in this chemical reaction. So this was very important for you to understand the different components of your. So how did you uh, so let's stop this share. So now you have understood what is a chemical reaction, what are the balanced chemical equations, and just try to see which type of, what is exothermic and endothermic reaction, different types of matters, what is a precipitate, what happens when the heat is evolved, and you know that the delta symbol is used for the, whenever delta symbol is used, it is an endothermic reaction, and if the gas is liberated, an up arrow shows, is a symbol that shows that it's a liberation of the gas, and when a precipitate is formed, the down arrow is used, and solid, liquid and gaseous states, what it is, you all know it. So let's meet again, try to see just what had till now you were, I just give you a simple example of, find out and tell me what type of reaction is respiration, photosynthesis and decomposition, in that whether it's exothermic, endothermic, or which type of reactions are these. And when you are doing that, you just see where is heat or energy is utilized, then it's an endothermic one, and where energy is liberated, it is an exothermic reaction. So try out with the reactants and the products that are formed during photosynthesis, during respiration, and then see whether the equations are balanced. Can you balance the equations? And can you write all the symbols when you are utilizing these energies? Which symbol you have to use when, for example, sunlight is used in photosynthesis. So where do you have to draw a delta to show that energy is utilized? And when it is liberated, using all those symbols, solve these two, then we'll go for the next classes. So still then, see you, be safe, follow SMS rule, SMSs, social distancing, use your mask, and use sanitizers. Stay safe, keep yourself away from mosquitoes. Because of the flood in Hyderabad, most of the people are suffering. Maintaining hygiene, using boiled and proper water, taking all precautions is very necessary. You have to overprotect yourself this rainy season. Apart from this pandemic, you have to take extra precautions, maintain proper hygiene. See you on 26th. Allah Hafiz.